work from home, avocation in these stressful times. Just type kcaaradio.com into your browser to learn more about hosting a show on the best station in the nation, or call our CEO for details, 281-599-9800.
KCAA Radio, Loma Linda, where no listener is ever left behind.
Numbers tell the story. Find the profit leaks, turn your numbers into growth. Steven Yen shows what your business needs. Cash flow strong, now your future shows. Numbers tell the story, yeah, tell the story. 20 years inside the numbers.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's the E Factor radio show. So you might notice that Cornelius isn't here. He's celebrating his uncle's 90th birthday. And they've got a ton of people there. And you're all invited, but you got to go to Victorville. So I'm Ken Powell. I'm stepping in. Yeah. Joe, our engineer, is saying, hey, what's the address? Well, we can't do that. So I'm stepping in as the host, and today we have Steven Yen, and he's from Cornerstone Diagnostic Consulting, and we're going to talk about cash flow for small business people, but more importantly, the whole trend of what's happening with small business and how you can participate in this new market. If you haven't noticed, AI and various other strategies are starting to affect how big corporations are working, and you may be interested in starting your own business. But anyway, welcome there, Steven.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, he's like all the accountants. He's really quiet, but that's okay. That's okay. So how did you, what's your background? Because a lot of people, you're just a pretty face on the radio. So why don't you give us a little background of how you got to this place of setting up your own consulting company? But so go ahead and take over here.
Well, I come from an analytical background. That's just my nature, an analytical guy. I have a math degree from UCLA as my undergrad.
Okay.
And I also have my MBA in finance from UC Irvine. So
Wow.
I never left Southern California.
Never left Southern California.
Born and raised here, and stayed here for school. But I've also, besides the education, I've worked for about 20 years in large corporations, in corporate finance. Those corporations were both public companies and private companies as well. And through all those years of working in corporate finance, I've managed budgets and forecasts and managed expenses, and conducted a lot of financial analysis and done a lot of financial reporting for all these companies. And, through all that analysis, have made recommendations, that, executive leaders or senior leadership can take actionable steps to improve, ultimately profitability, right? That's the main goal of the company, is to improve profits. So, but utilizing all of that experience is, where I, wanted to bring it to small businesses.
To the small business community, because that's a major weakness for small businesses. Most small businesses are all about being operators. Right. In other words, they're really good at their trade, whether it's plumbing or running a music studio or hair salon. But where they're weak is where you're strong.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, why I started Cornerstone. Most business owners, after being at these large corporations, right? I've seen them, use, the financial analysis to drive profitability. And after talking to many small business owners, realize that, a lot of them, lack that clarity or that, structure, within their business. And, so many of them, like you mentioned, they originally started their business with one purpose in mind: to provide the goods or products or services that they know or wanted to provide to the market, and that's what they do best, right? But however, as many business owners, especially the ones who are solopreneurs, that are operating the business by themselves without a huge team, they've besides, focusing on the product or the service they sell, they've had to take on all the other aspects from marketing and finance, accounting, taxes, payroll, HR, things like that. And, a lot of those areas are not areas, that they were necessarily trained in, or maybe they don't even like to do. But, because they're a one-man show, they've had to take on all of this. And, a lot of them probably view it as a distraction or a nuisance to them, and they don't like to do it. And, that's where we, try to, help them and, lighten the load and take the pressure off of them on areas that they don't want to, so they can focus on what they do best. They're experts in whatever product or services they provide. And, it really, kind of lets them refocus, their efforts and their energy on what they do best. So, that's kind of, why, we started that, Cornerstone. And
So I noticed in the name Cornerstone, you say diagnostic.
Right.
What does that mean?
well, how we came up with the name, first of all, Cornerstone, as a, as a person, a believer in Jesus, Jesus is a cornerstone,
Right.
who provides the stability and integrity in our lives. And, he gives us the alignment and, sets the direction for us. So, I wanted to, pay tribute to, my Lord and Savior, Jesus, and put Cornerstone in there. The diagnostic, though, is more about our methodical approach to evaluating a business. It kind of takes that methodical, analytical approach to evaluating, similar to how a healthcare professional diagnoses their patients.
Oh,
Hence the
okay. So like
diagnostic.
when you go to the doctor's office and
Yeah.
you meet with your general practitioner,
Right.
He's going to send you to all these tests, right?
Right.
That's diagnostic.
Yeah, you
right?
get your blood work, your blood tests, and all these other, tests, whatever, type of tests he orders. And then, you evaluate it based on the results of these tests. And, also it's a kind of a nod to my my wife, JC. She's a healthcare professional in women's health. And she's worked in a women's GYN clinic at a hospital for many years. Prior to that, she used to work in pediatrics, but for a long time now, she's been focused on women's health. And she also, recently launched her, her own telehealth business called Quick Stop Health. She was on here with Cornelius last week.
Yes, yes, she was. And,
Talking to.
unfortunately, Cornelius is not a very good girl or a woman. He's going, oh, and I go, oh my God, Cornelius, please, don't go that route. But he did anyway, and so a lot of people probably thought some weird stuff about that.
But as far as that, the JC, for any of the women that are out there that have, women's health issues, I highly recommend, if especially if those who are busy, who don't have the time to drive to a doctor's office, sit in a waiting room, sit in an exam room waiting around, or maybe the next available appointment's a couple weeks out, as many busy doctor's offices are, you can just go to her website, quickstophealth.com, and, schedule an appointment with her. And, I'm not saying it just because she's my wife, but, she truly is.
Well, that's a good reason too.
But the main thing is she really listens to patients. She really cares for her patients.
Well, and especially when you're a small business person, you need to value your time more than you do if you're working for a regular company.
Yeah.
Because, you say, hey, you call up, you work for the county, and you say, I got a doctor's appointment. So if you're there for 3 or 4 hours, nobody really cares. But when you're a small business person, let's say you're an electrician, and you got to go to the doctor, you can't be sitting there for 3 or 4 hours and miss calls and not be able to take care of a lot of the business things that go on. So let's talk about diagnostic for a second. So what do? You analyze their tax return?
Look at their financial reports.
Okay, so which financial reports would
Well,
you
the
look at?
three primary financial reports that are kind of a core of a business are the income statement, or they call it a P&L, profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. And the cash flow statement is a very important one, but it's underutilized because most people just look at the P&L. So,
Well,
or
and
the
that's
income
interesting because, every once in a while I run across somebody who says, I made $1 million last year, but I had a negative cash flow.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, there's, various reasons that can happen, but there's that's just one of the common problems that I see is, they know they're making sales. They're focused on, they're very good at what they do. That goods or products or services that they're selling, they know they're making sales, but for some reason those owners complaining that they feel like they just don't have cash on hand for pay bills or whatever it is. And, but a lot of that can be, if we take a deeper look into their, balance sheet and see what their accounts receivable and accounts payable. And, there could be, different things on the balance sheet that might give you indicators of what's tying up their cash.
Okay, and a lot of that has to do with like accounts receivable,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so a lot of times people are paying immediately,
Yeah,
and then they're trying to collect the bill, and maybe it takes 90 days. So, but in the accounting world, depending upon what method they use, it's being logged in right away, right?
yeah. And it'll show, that they're profitable, but, cash isn't coming in.
Yeah, because they got this huge accounts receivable
Yeah.
balance on their balance sheet, right?
Right, right.
And then the other thing that a lot of people face is what negative equity in the capital account.
Yeah, that's another issue that's common with the owners will periodically have to infuse more cash into the business as well.
And they don't know why.
Yeah, and they again, it kind of goes back to their question about their profitability. They're like, why am I supposedly profitable, but I still have to bring in more cash, and and make periodic deposits into the business, and bring in more cash.
And they don't account for it,
Yeah.
right? So they don't even get the benefit of the tax
Yeah.
savings, right? By making an additional contribution,
Right.
Because they're just taking it out of their pocket, putting it in,
Yeah.
not recording it, and as a consequence, they don't get the benefit. So at the end of the year, it says they made $1 million. Let's say they put $100,000 in, but they didn't record it. They made $1 million, as far as the IRS is concerned, and that $100,000 that they did as a cash infusion doesn't count.
Right.
And that's the other thing. That's what's interesting about your consulting company, is because most people, this is when they get their consulting. At the end of the year, when they're going to file their tax return in January or February.
Right.
When is an accountant least able to help you?
When the year's over.
When the year is over. Say, and I love CPAs. They say, we could have done something about this if you came in earlier, but they had no idea, right?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we do for our clients is we try to instill this financial analysis and structure into their business. A lot of these business owners, they're so busy just operating their business and just doing what they can. Like I mentioned, they have to do all these other things besides just selling that product or service. They have to do marketing, and they have to handle payroll, and they have to handle all these other issues. That they're short on time. But what we try to do is also, Cornerstone, we like to utilize a method, what I call the Kaizen profit system.
Okay.
Kaizen is a Japanese. I'm Japanese descent, so
That makes sense.
Japanese Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy, meaning continual improvement. And so we focus on making small incremental changes over time and improvements over time. It's not like taking just, big drastic measures, but focusing on continual improvement, always getting better. Even Kobe Bryant said it too. Like he asked, he wants to look in the mirror and ask himself, did I get better today? So every day he wants to be better than he was the day before.
The day before.
So it's kind of that same concept, right? And to kind of put it in numbers, because as you heard in the song, the intro song, numbers tell the story, right?
That's right. That's right.
So to put it in a simple example is if a company, for example, just made small incremental, modest improvement of 1%, just 1% a week, and then they continued doing that every week for 52 weeks for a whole year.
Right.
And you compound that 1%, it seems like such a small improvement, but if you just do that continually for 52 weeks straight, the compounded effect of that small changes over time, after 1 year, you would have improved your profitability by 68%. That's huge. So
Yeah, because there's a synergism, right?
Yeah.
So it's a compounding effect.
Right.
So it's not, everybody says, oh, well, that's only 52%.
Yeah.
But it actually turns out to be 68%,
68%.
because of the compounding
yeah,
effect.
so if the company was say made $100,000 in profit, and they took measures to improve their profitability by 1%, compounded over over time, after 1 year, they would make extra 68,000 instead of 100,000. They would make 168,000.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's not a guaranteed result for, all companies, but that's just one simple example.
Well, but I mean, if you did do it,
Yeah.
right? Because the bottom line is most people will not.
Right.
Because they go, oh well, I don't have time to do that, or I want to change everything.
Yeah.
It's like either or, all in or not at all.
Yeah.
So there's no middle ground, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's so you don't always have to make big drastic changes. Just take small. We take a look at your business and see where we can identify maybe reducing costs. There's a lot of small businesses when you take a look at it. They have unnecessary costs or even excessive spending in certain areas, right? That's just one thing. Or maybe there's inefficiencies that we try to help them uncover where, they, overlooked. And so all of these things, these little incremental changes, can, have a impact on improving the bottom line or the profits, right? And so, we take a look at it. But one thing that's really important for that we do is, we have to we implement metrics. After we evaluate their business and take a look at their financials and all their data, we implement metrics or what we call KPIs. Which
KPIs, I was going to say.
Key performance indicators. That's way it's a way to measure and keep track of how a business is doing. Because otherwise, without it, you're flying blind. You don't know if is a business getting better or if it's getting worse. But these metrics, you can look at it, from this month and then the next month and the next month, and you can see if there's an upward trend or a downward trend. Is it getting better or is the business getting worse? And I spend a lot of time, in quite a bit of time in the Tony Robbins community, and Tony always says, you can't measure what you can't manage what you don't measure.
Right.
So you need to measure it, otherwise you'll have no idea, how you're truly doing. So.
Okay, so Stephen, we're going to break and we're going to go to commercial here real quick. And then after the commercial, then we're going to talk about some specific strategies, maybe for specific industries that we can help small business people with. Hey, welcome back. We're here with Stephen Yin from Cornerstone Diagnostic Consulting, and you were just listening to one of the songs that you had created, right, to show people what your business is all about.
Yeah, I think we talked about marketing, right? We just touched on it. Talking about how small business owners are not necessarily they started a business to focus on the the product or services they sell, but by default, if they're the only person running in their company, they've had to take on marketing and all these other things. And so one thing that we try and help them with is marketing. And one thing we saw that in the marketplace that there's not enough businesses utilizing music in their marketing. They just put out these ads or use social media or whatever. But there's music just resonates with people, right? It just captures, and it gets emotions involved. And
well, yeah, and large corporations all have music in their ads.
But small business owners don't
don't
necessarily
have
do
that. Yeah, they don't think it's important, or they don't think they can afford it.
Right.
But one of the interesting things that was in that song, you said, hey, you can turn your home into a small business. And I think a lot of people are sitting there going, well, how does that work? And so we're going to focus on 3 kinds of businesses that you can help them realize that they can run it from their home. They can use it to turn their house from a liability, right? Because everybody thinks their house is an asset.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay insurance, you got to pay property tax, you got repairs. Those are all liabilities.
Yeah. Repairs and maintenance can be a big one.
Repairs and maintenance. So if you're going to turn your house into a commercial property, and people go, well, no, it's not. It's where I live. No, what you've done is you've reanalyzed what you're doing as your business, and now you can take a depreciation, and you can write off all the expenses, a portion of your mortgage. Obviously, not all of it, because you actually do live there. And but quite a bit of it,
And other expenses that people just pay for, like Wi-Fi and phone and things like that.
Absolutely. And then also your automobile, mileage. I always find it interesting because people say, "Can I? It's too much work to track my mileage." And I said, "Well, how many miles do you drive per year?" "Oh, about 20,000." "Oh, okay. So you're telling me that you're going to give up almost $17,000 worth of deductions." "What?" "Yeah, 68 cents or 72 cents or whatever the number is per mile." "Oh, okay, I guess I should track them."
Yeah.
And now with all the new technologies, it's a lot easier than ever, right?
Yeah. I mean, AI is such a huge thing nowadays, and it's only, somewhat, it's the new trend now, and it's only going to keep progressing faster and faster now. So, AI is definitely something that, all small business owners should start thinking about leveraging, because the large companies are utilizing AI. And AI is here to stay, and it's, utilizing. If you don't utilize AI, you could be left behind. It's kind of like the same thing back in the day when, typical brick and mortar stores got left behind if they didn't adopt, online businesses, right? The Amazons, and all that, eventually just took over. And what happened to Amazon started as a bookstore, online bookstore, right? And they grew They grew into so much more, but the brick and mortar stores that everyone used to go to, the Borders and the Barnes and Noble,
And the Sears.
yeah, where are they now? And Toys R Us. They were the biggest. And when I was a kid, that's where I'd like to go. Toys R Us.
Yeah.
But they, and then Blockbuster Video, if you remember that. My wife and I used to, when we were dating, we used to go to Blockbuster Video Friday nights or Saturday nights, go get our video. And now it's just about online and streaming services. So all those old brick and mortar that didn't adopt the new technologies got left behind, and that's what AI is doing now.
Yeah, and what's interesting, and what does AI stand for, by the way?
Artificial intelligence.
Okay. So basically, you're just taking your own thought process and creating what they call a prompt, right? And then putting that in, and then the AI researches all that stuff for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it yourself,
Yeah.
right? You could go to the 150 YouTube sites that it's going to go
Right.
through in 3 minutes, or websites, or blogs. I mean, they may look at 100 or 200 different locations, and you could do all of that in 5 minutes?
Yeah, but one thing that people don't realize that is, anyone can just type in some instructions in the AI, but prompting is so important. How you prompt the AI. You can get so much better results out of it if you know how to prompt the AI, and give it the better instructions, and you'll get better results out of it. So,
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that a lot of people are looking at the AI, and really, I guess what we're talking about is ChatGPT for the most part.
well, that's
Initially.
the big one that everyone knows. That's the kind of the big name that everyone knows. But there are actually other LLMs or large language models, right? And AI tools that I feel are better for certain things. And ChatGPT is kind of good at a lot of things, but they're not like the best in any one thing.
Yeah, and then there's like Claude and Gemini and
Grok and
Grok, yeah. And the great thing about it is if you guys are interested in learning about AI, Cornelius is putting together a class where you're going to be able to get 8 hours and of information on how to do that. I assume you will be participating
Oh,
as
yes,
well.
yes.
And so just stay tuned. You can send it to Powell Street Media Lab, or you can send it to Cornelius at eFactor Radio, and get yourself on the waiting list, because I think we're only going to do like 12 or 13 people.
Yeah, keep it smaller.
Yeah, because
initially.
the guy we're using is Roger.
Yeah.
I don't even know what his last name is.
He's fantastic. But
Yeah, and he's doing a collaboration with the Orange County Community College District, I think, or one of them. And basically, it's really inexpensive to take this thing, but he's going to show you how to use it in your business
yeah.
physically. You got to bring a laptop. You get an assignment at the beginning that you have to come with, and you need to bring your financials with you. And he's going to show you exactly how to do it, as opposed to a YouTube video or even a class that somebody's teaching you all these things and showing you examples. But when you leave, it's like hieroglyphics. Yeah. When I used to do seminars, people would go, "Oh wow, this is so easy," and they go. And one gal took the sheet, and she showed it to her husband, and she goes, "Here, look, this is what we're gonna do." And he says, "Well, what is it?" It made a lot of sense when I went. Oh, okay, so maybe I need to go again. Okay, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to hear it; it's a whole nother thing to do it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to taking that class from him and continuing to improve my AI skills, and also adopting the Kaizen approach to myself. Right, always continue improvement and getting better, and especially in such a critical area such as AI. That's the new way for the world. So I don't want to get left behind. So.
Exactly, and we're down the street from a company called Bebop, and they're bringing a lot of Silicon Valley ideas to the minority community in San Bernardino. So they are really starting to get into the whole AI thing. So there's a lot of ways to go, but I think give Cornelius a call, and I think he can really get you hooked up. And then we're only going to take 12 people, so obviously there's going to be room for more people.
Yeah, but having that small group though will really allow for a more intimate setting that you can really ask questions and learn from and get a little bit more attention, as opposed to being in this huge room where they're not going to have time to address everybody's questions.
When they have like
right?
300 people in the audience. Yeah, and the other beautiful thing about going to Cornelius's AI event is you're going to have guys like Steven who can actually help you translate your business problems, and look at your financial statement, do a diagnostic right there.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can get that for the price that we're charging. This isn't a $30,000 deal. It's not a $20,000 deal. It's not a $10,000 deal. And it's not even, I think it approaches maybe $300 total, and that includes your lunch. So the bottom line is that a lot of these training programs are very expensive, and this is a way of learning without having to spend a lot of money.
Yeah. No, but he's really a fantastic, and he really knows his AI, and I've already learned a lot from talking to him, and just looking to learn even more from him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, especially for small business people, don't focus on having your AI agents schedule your appointments or do your shopping for you or that kind of. Focus on your business and how you can increase profitability.
Yeah.
And that's really the thesis of what Cornerstone Diagnostic is doing.
Profitability and cash flow.
And cash
'Cause
flow.
Cash is king. You know, you could be profitable on paper, but if you don't have the cash, then what good is that?
Exactly.
Paper profits.
Exactly. And that's a lot of the things that we need to do. So let's take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll talk about 3 business ideas for small businesses.
Numbers tell the story. Find the profit leaks, turn your numbers into growth. Stevie Yen shows what your business needs. Cash flow strong, now your future shows. Numbers tell the story, yeah, tell the story. 20 years inside the numbers, seeing what most businesses miss. Hidden costs, silent losses, waiting in the balance sheets. Find the profit leaks, turn your numbers into growth. Stevie Yen shows what your business needs. Cash flow strong, now your future shows. Numbers tell the story, yeah, tell the story. Cornerstone Diagnostic Consultant. Numbers tell the story, yeah, words tell the story. Cornerstone Diagnostic Consultant. Numbers tell the story, numbers tell the story. Find the profit leaks, turn your numbers.
Okay, welcome back. We're with Stephen Yin from Cornerstone Diagnostic, and we're having a big time discussion to help small business people move their business up 1% at a time.
Yep. Small changes,
Small
but have
changes.
big results.
So what are some of the universal issues that small business people have, or just generally any business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are, a lot of, common problems that businesses and small businesses have. And, we like to call them, as you heard in one of the songs that was playing, we call it profit leaks, right?
Yes.
Because it's, profits are literally, businesses are losing money, or, profits are leaking out of the business in various areas. And, what we try and do is help stop the leaks, stop the bleeding, right? And, implement, make recommendations or diagnose and prescribe, changes that will hopefully, not only stop the bleeding, but improve profitability and cash flow. But, some of those common problems are, one is just comes down to expense management, right?
Right.
Expense management, there are, costs that, either are unnecessary, or sometimes they're excessive spending in certain areas. Like they're overspending in certain areas. So there are opportunities to cut costs, and you trim those expenses. That immediately improves profitability. Other areas that can be that there's problems is like I mentioned at the beginning, I dealt with a lot of budgets and forecasts in the companies. But a lot of small business owners, because they don't have that structure or clarity, a lot of them don't actually develop budgets or have forecasts and don't update them regularly. They're just so focused on trying to run their business and make sales, but you need to have an updated regular forecast so you can keep an eye on the future. While you also, looking at the financial reports to, see how you've been doing historically in the past few months or, over the past year, but you also need to keep an eye on the future too. Right?
Well, and I think that's important because, for example, the SBA requires that historical analysis.
Yeah.
And you, the owner, cannot explain, how you operate.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you getting a loan is going to.
And they want to see a forecast, a projection, pro forma, 5-year look into how you think this business is going to, go over the next few years, right? And they want to, see, and that's how they analyze the risk as well. But other common issues is, like I mentioned before, that a lot of businesses are supposedly profitable on paper, but
Right.
where's the cash, right? And it's like,
Right.
And we talked about, possible areas of causes of those issues. Another common issue is, some businesses, business owners, they're not operating in the most tax efficient manner. So, sometimes they may be paying too much taxes. So we help them try to identify areas where they can save on taxes.
Well, yeah, and I think most people think, oh, well, you can't do my personal expenses through the business. But, you could do your business expenses through the business, and people just assume that it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Like for example, they what they call accounts. See what they call it, accountable plans, where you get reimbursed for expenses. Maybe you paid for some printing. That's for the business, but you paid out of your credit card. Then you need to go to the accountable. And see, a lot of people get like confused because in big businesses you have an expense account, right? And you have to reconcile it, every month or whatever, or you just lose the money.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, that's not fair." Well, when you become a small business, now you understand what an accountable program is and how it can increase your net profit at the same time creating, cash flow. Cash flow is really, like you said, is the king.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about 3 businesses real quick. And the reason why I identified these 3 businesses is because all 3 of them are in crisis. The first one is childcare. There's a huge crisis in childcare in the state of California. There's just not enough providers. So you think about this. Let's say you have a child, maybe 2 or 3 years old, and you're commuting to LA every single day, and you're concerned about who's taking care of your kid. Wouldn't it make sense if you could stay home, take care of your child, and then add 9 other kids?
Yeah.
And make a little bit of money and use new technologies. A lot of AI technologies, a lot of other types of technologies that you can use to monitor the kids. It's like with pets. Everybody loves their pet, so they want to know what their pet is doing. So it's on their cell phone, right? They're at work and they're going, "Oh, what is Fido doing?" Boom, boom, boom. But they don't do the same thing for their kid.
Right.
But you can with a business like that. And it's a highly profitable business because now you've turned your business from a liability to an asset because you're going to be able to write off the loan, a lot of the costs. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, and everybody, childcare is such a, huge part of people's lives right now, and nowadays things are so expensive, right? And it requires both parents to work, and
Right.
and if they have little ones, they, and if they still want to both be working, to support the household, then everyone needs this childcare, and not everyone has grandmas or grandpas that can help out, or so childcare is definitely a big opportunity for people to utilize their own home and start a small business.
Well, and the other thing is now she doesn't have to, and I say she, it could be a he as well. They don't have to drive all the way to 2.5 hours to get a check and then pay another $16,000 to take care of their kid.
Right.
So the cost benefit analysis is not there. But most people would say, okay, well, I'm just going to quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Why do that when you can turn it into a business
Yeah.
and make money? I've seen it happen over and over and over again, but nobody really talks about it because it's not that cool. The next thing is food. There's a thing called a cottage company, which allows you to produce in your home food service to anybody else that you want, up to $175,000 a year with the health department. And now a lot of people like, "Oh man, I got this great burrito recipe," right?
Yeah.
And everybody loves the burrito recipe, and they could sell it.
Yeah.
And go to the farmer's market, sell it there, or delivery service,
Or have a food truck or something.
or have a food truck. Yeah, a food truck is obvious.
Yeah.
Because what food trucks are doing is they're going to commissaries. They're renting a kitchen when they could actually convert their home into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And
But so many people have grown up with a special family recipe that is just everyone loves.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that they can monetize that.
And monetize that, exactly. And now we're really, really sensitive about what our parents or our kids or what we eat.
Yeah.
Our diets are totally changing from farm to table. Mm-hmm. And so there's an opportunity right there, health-wise.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the next one, which is the crisis in residential assisted living.
Yeah. That's a big one.
And the thing is this, I look at convalescent homes or whatever you want to call them as like mini prisons. Because the bottom line is they have 100 people there. They're trying to take care of everybody at the same level, and it's very hard to do. And and they're charging a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's not very personable.
No, and it's not, like you said, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. And 4 or 5 years ago, I had a radio show with Barbara Scott where we talked about in-home care, and she said basically the biggest issue everybody has. In fact, I'm going to set up an appointment with you and your wife to talk to her. She wrote a book, and that book talked about the real crisis in care is caring.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of medical advances and all these other kind of things, but the average person who's in one of these deals is dying from loneliness.
Yeah.
And that's scary. And that's why residential assisted living is a potential for somebody to either turn their own home into a residential assisted living location, or buying a new home, moving to the new home, and then turning their existing property into residential care. What do you think about something like that?
No, I think it's a great idea. I mean, RAL became more personal to me, in my life because, just a couple years ago, my dad and my mom were, on vacation in Hawaii. My dad had an accident where he fell, and he hit his head, and he needed to be admitted to the ICU and whatnot, and then he had to do a couple months of rehab in Hawaii, and then
Well, that's not too bad, but go ahead.
but then and then we went out there to help him out there, but then also had to look for a place, an assisted living place and a rehab place that he could come back to in California before he was able to get better and then
Right.
go home. So that was the first time I had ever had to personally go look into these type of facilities. And my wife and I and my sister, and we looked at so many different facilities, and we realized, like some of these, like you said, they didn't seem so appealing, and
Well, they're pretty basic.
yeah, they're very basic, and they
Peanut
are,
butter sandwich,
Yeah.
for lunch, and watching the TV.
yeah, they're in the rec room, they're all watching the same program on the same
Right,
TV
right.
or whatever, and there was not a lot of activity going on
Yeah,
for it. It felt kind of boring, or they're just lying in their bed, a lot of the time, and it just didn't seem very exciting. But fortunately, my dad, eventually, was able to, get better and get
He got
out.
better,
He-
yeah,
he's
sure.
at home now, but that was the first time I had to personally, look into it, and then through that, and then with my wife being a, medical professional, and then she had to deal. She knows of people who have been in and out of those type of facilities. She took an interest in that, in being in the healthcare field. And so, we started, talking about RAL a lot. And then, she's actually, currently getting her, certification to be a RAL administrator as
Oh,
well.
wow.
She's actually doing that right now. So,
Okay.
so, we are serious and, see that opportunity in that business. And, it should not be taken light, especially with the baby boomers being such a huge population, and then, they're going to need, these, the aging, population is going to need these type of facilities. There's just not enough, and not enough high quality ones.
Well, and the thing is, you got 60,000 people a week that are turning the age of being necessary, and the fastest growing group of people is people over the age of 80.
Yeah.
By far. And I was talking to Guerrero, Isabel Guerrero, yesterday, and she runs the RAL Network Academy, and she just says it was a blessing. Her dad actually started it. He died and then left the program to her, and she said it was like a great legacy. And Isabel is like a tremendous, because what Isabel does is she takes something that's pretty complex and simplifies it enough so that everybody can kind of understand it. And that's the same thing with Barbara Scott and her book. And the bottom line is she talks about the emotional side. Isabel talks about the financial side. So there's a lot of different things going on in the world, and a lot of changes that are taking place. And I think that's great. And so, as an investor, you're going to sit there and go, well, okay, so, but aren't there a lot of people already doing this? Yes, there's a lot of people doing it, but not like there are for Airbnbs and fix and flip and all this kind of stuff. So there's still a huge shortage. And the convalescent homes, those kind of care facilities just don't have enough. They don't have enough space to satisfy the need, especially at the higher levels.
Right. Yeah.
And they're trying to jam 2 or 3 people into a room. And to me, when I get the opportunity to go to an RAL, I want my own private room.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the way it is. I don't want to be sharing it with somebody else. I don't want to be sharing the bathroom with somebody else. Yeah. Well, I could do that, but I want to have some privacy of my own, my own space.
But I think the other thing that you mentioned, a lot of them lack a lot of these, amenities. And, like when people go on vacation, they like to go to these nice resort hotels that have all these amenities, right? And, you mentioned a lot of these, the current options that they have are very basic and lack these amenities. So,
well, it's like going to Motel 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, at some point, you've got to graduate out of Motel 6 and graduate to the, to a higher end, like the Biltmore over there in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, who wouldn't want that over, Motel 6?
Yeah, exactly. If you have the money, you might as well spend it. And there's $38 trillion worth of baby boomer money out there, and it's got to go someplace. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. Wow, you've been an interesting guest. And I'm going to tell you, you need to contact Cornelius as soon as possible, because if you're going to start a small business, and I think AI is going to replace a lot of white collar people, and you're going to see franchises and all kinds of other things coming up. But look into the AI class and learn something about it, and then look at some opportunities of turning your home into a commercial.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, you can, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay. How do we get a hold of you?
Stephen Yin at Cornerstone Diagnostic Consulting. And, my phone number, you can reach me at 562-888-0220. So
okay. Well, you got to say it again because this is radio.
562-888-0220.
Okay. I didn't quite hear it because I got hard of hearing. So one more time.
562-888-0220. Yeah, you can just reach out. Feel free to reach out to me, and I can see what I can do to help you.
Text him, and he'll get back to you.
Yep.
So I think we're about done. So we'll run our very last musical score.
Yep.
Audio.
Fortune and fame, from UCLA math to MBA mind, he learned how the biggest profits are designed. When the numbers don't speak and the path feels unknown, Stephen finds a profit already inside your home. Cut the waste, grow the flow, build the future you plan. Cornerstone clarity, your business
you can listen to KCAA Radio anytime on your smartphone device. Call 720-835-3099. 720-835-3099.
For over 75 years, the Marine Toys for Tots program has provided toys and emotional support to economically disadvantaged children, primarily during the holidays. But needs are not just seasonal, and now, neither is Toys for Tots. They've expanded their outreach to support families in need all year long with their new programs, including the Foster Care Initiative, the Native American Program, and the Youth Ambassador Program. To learn how you can help, visit toysfortots.org.
With 60 years of fascinating facts, this is the man from yesterday. And back in time we go.